Hi, welcome back to my channel. I hope I'm able to post this because I feel like it's a really powerful message, actually, and it's to do with self-preservation and just like, I feel like when your norm is dysfunction, okay, it's like it can just be like the thing is, your mind is so programmable, it's so programmed, it's so able to be programmed into dysfunction though, especially when you're exposed to that as a child, when your brain's like a sponge, okay? And then as an adult, often people just deal with having to go through real difficulty functioning when you've sort of had that exposure to abuse and such like that. And especially when, and things can be re-triggered as well. I always go like long periods of time without being triggered, and then I like have this like upset or something that triggers something within me. And I know what's being triggered at the moment is having projections from negative or toxic people on me about my character or about who I am. And there's universal truth. There's universal truth and there's universal lie. And, you know, some people will just lie. They'll lie and lie and lie and lie, lies on lies. It doesn't, like, that's what they do. They're trying to cause chaos and create dysfunction. And it's not got a place in truth. And I'm a very logical person. Stuff is truth or a lie. And I'm sure I fall on the autistic spectrum, but what comes with that is being very, very straightforward and very, very like logical about whether something is truth or a lie. And I think it's actually served me quite well, because when people are sort of like projecting their shit in my face at times when I've been a child and stuff, I've been able to sort of discern that, just be like, that's naturally not the truth. Like, that's naturally not the truth. But anyway, regardless, it's not about overworking yourself in order to convince people that are delusional. It's all about delusional mindsets as well, these sort of snaky people that dance around the truth, trying to create some sort of delusion that doesn't make any sense to create chaos for people, you know. And it's like, I don't have time for that shit. I've got other stuff to worry about, do you know what I mean? Especially, and it's just like, you know, exposure to any person like that is just exhausting. And they call it energy vampires. It's like, it's literally what it is, energy vampire. And it's like, what, who the fuck's got time for that shit? Like, no one. And, you know, at the end of the day, at the core truth of everything is about self-preservation. You know, the core that you need to be at is self-preservation, you know. And, you know, I feel like when you're growing up, or when you are young, you can be taught not to trust yourself. You can be programmed with all of these horrible belief systems about yourself. You can have a toxic caregiver project all their insecurities on you and actively perpetuate your negative qualities, trying and train you into believing negative things about yourself in order so they can create, because I've seen it so many times, toxic caregivers, they can create wounds within you so they can trigger those wounds, and then they can feel better about themselves if they've got personality disorders like narcissism. And it's disgusting, it's truly disgusting. But when you're really, as an adult, processing that, you know, that's what's been triggered in me at the moment. It's the fact that someone is trying to create wounds in me to be able to trigger them so they can feel dominant about themselves. And, you know, it's honestly dysfunctional to its very essence, obviously. But I'm really not about that life. I really have no time for it. I see it for what it is, but still, the fact I've got these wounds, it's just showing me that I've got some other layer to heal from, some other layer of the onion. Because even people that aren't those people that inflicted those wounds, I've still got to carry those wounds. And then other people will hit on those wounds if they're feeling insecure. And it's like, you know, that's not what I'm here for, to make you feel better about yourself. And you're going to attack my abused inner child? No, I don't think that it works like that. So anyway, yeah, so, but at the end of the day, everything at the core of yourself should be based around self-preservation. There should be no belief system within your psychology that goes against your natural preservation state, aka conflicting with your peace of mind or your most highest truth, actually. Because sometimes, like, and it's about also the positivity and the negativity of things. Because I've heard this idea, which is true, I think, of if you focus on the negativity and the negativity that others are bringing towards you, you will attract more negativity. But if you focus on the positive and the positives about you, the positives about whatever a situation is. I'm not saying look for, I mean, to be honest with you, with toxic people, you get very used to having, if you have to be exposed to them, for example, if it is a toxic caregiver, focusing on the positives of them, even when there's not many of them, and just perpetuating that in order to survive. But when it comes to the world that you live in, it's not about finding, it's so unfortunate that you do gravitate towards what you're used to. And, you know, it's not about perpetuating the positives within a toxic person. If you've got free reign of the world, where you're going to find lots of positive people, you know, it's not worth just like finding a negative person and perpetuating. As I say, even when you're just dealing with a negative person, they call it fluffing within narcissistic abuse sometimes, of like, you can find, like, just to deal with a narcissist, you'll just sort of blow smoke up their ass for a brief interaction just to get them off your ass, just so they go away and whatever. And it's not necessary to have that mindset in the world, though. And as I say, it's like, it's always interesting for me to watch these videos back, so I can sort of psychoanalyze myself as well. But I think it's just so important to be kind to yourself, regardless of the situation. I've had this so many times before come up on my videos, where it's like, regardless of the situation and adversity that you're experiencing, to continue to be kind to yourself and to continue to heal and thrive, and to have sort of like that compassion with yourself, to put yourself as a priority. This was another thing, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and it's to do with prioritizing yourself, and like going through like a reset, but to reset yourself to a place of health and to a place of thriving and to a place of self-preservation, but to, as I say, to put yourself first, because there's such a mindset of someone that has been perpetually abused and abandoned and had to live in a survival state, and children, literally any child being put in any sort of toxic environment, will accustom themselves for survival to go with the negativity and the toxicity, and take that on and internalize it to whatever degree, and perpetuate it to whatever degree, just to survive, just to function, just to stay alive. And it's horrible. But as an adult, when you've got this whole, you know, wealth of the world to enjoy, and this whole freedom and life to experience, you know, to have those sort of coping mechanisms to internalize other people's abuse, and to you know, take on what someone is dishing out in their dysfunction, and when they project their ideas on you and make up lies about you. One of the things that I've found is when people make up lies about you, it doesn't make them true, doesn't make them factually true, and it doesn't create any karma for you as well. If anything, it's actually just creating bad karma for them. It doesn't have, you know, grounding in truth, and it doesn't make it true. And I think it's just about, like, I've gone for a journaling thing. I always think it's helpful to take accountability for the wounds that weren't inflicted upon you, and create, say, a belief system from the external, like, it's okay for others to project on me, and then internalize that of, it's okay for me to project on myself. So first of all, I can't project on myself. Can I project on myself? No, that's kind of internalizing insecurity. So the fact is, people shouldn't be able to project on me if I can't physically project on myself. What people's projections are should not be taken into account, basically. I really liked this analogy of creating a self-love bubble for yourself so everyone's negativity can like bounce off it. And I have found that when I've been healing, I'm so much more resilient to other people's shit generally, because I'm just able to not only discern what is truth from what is lie, not only am I able to feel into what is a positive experience and what is a negative experience, as in, is someone bringing me negative energy or someone bringing me positive energy, and also just to have that place of like, actually, I'm good, I don't need this right now, bye-bye, sort of thing. And it's not about distancing yourself necessarily from healthy relationships. It's not necessarily what I'm talking, even though having healthy space in relationships can be healthy. There's nothing wrong with having space. It's also about not overly projecting your need for validation through your wounding on healthy relationships as well. Healing is always going to help relationships as well. So if you want to show up better in a relationship, it's not about externalizing that and thinking, what can I do for this other person? How can I help them? How can I this and that? Because you can have this massive externalizing idea of, if I do this and this and this and this, I'll be helping them, making them feel better. People often do just want their space and their boundaries. They want you to be in your lane and they want them to be in their lane. And codependency is a roadblock in relationships. It's a factor that's unhealthy. It's from an anxious attachment style. People don't love that shit. And it's not for someone, I'm noticing, to validate you every single time you have a doubt about yourself. It's not about every time I have a doubt I have to look externally to either a partner or anyone else to say, oh no, you're not like that. Like every now and again, yeah, some reassurance is nice if they want to personally choose to validate you, or for whatever reason they might think you look nice. And I think it's a compliment thing. You know, if you're feeling extra insecure about something, it may merit a validation, but it's not about every single thought that you feel insecure about. They should be thinking, oh no, you're not like that, oh no, this and that and this and that. It's not functional, because you start to be overly reliant on someone, and also it's not really possible actually either for someone to just validate your every kind of insecurity, to be honest. Yes, acts of service is a thing, yes, words of affirmation is a thing. And I might watch this back and think, oh, actually, maybe it is attainable for people to be validating of you. But there is also a sense to say that if you can actually learn that skill to validate yourself, it can just be a real growth experience, and it can just be healthy to do that, especially if you're an insecure person and you tend to go straight to codependence because you've never learned that skill of being able to validate yourself. Or sort of manage your insecurities. And you know, you can't really blame you can blame a relationship if it's toxic and unhealthy for you and people are being actively abusive. Then yes, you can blame a relationship for the effect it causes upon you. But I also think if someone is actually in a healthy dynamic with you to the point where they're kind of in the green, you can't sort of put all the blame on them for your problems, and also you can't assume them to fix your problems either. This is what I'm finding as well. It's about putting yourself back in the driver's seat of your own life, and not letting your inner child, I wasn't saying not like whinging, but like not letting your inner child kind of sort of tantrum at another person that's really just trying to keep their shit together too. It's about kind of taking control of your inner child actually, and just listening to them. I don't know if it can be through meditation, sitting with your feelings and actually just feeling your feelings, being with yourself, recognizing if there's some sort of toxic pathology coming up. Reassure yourself, especially reassuring your inner child. It can be so healing just to like be able to like connect with yourself on that level, because I feel like this is where a lot of like toxic sort of behaviors and stuff can come from, and toxic like adaptations and like coping mechanisms can just come from a really wounded inner child just not knowing how to cope. Do you know what I mean? Just internalizing all this abuse, not having any support, and just turning to the only thing that they can access at that time. And then as you get older, it can turn into drug addiction or or self-defeating behaviors, or negative like thought patterns, and sort of like toxic abuse to yourself or self-harm. Things can manifest in many forms, and this is why it's just so important to self-validate and really just take account for your own portion of who you are. Because I do feel like, I hate to say it, it's been a while that I've not been in a relationship, but I feel like my codependency is still being triggered and is still prevalent. And I do feel like I'm able to be in a relationship, but I also need to keep a close eye on my codependency and really journal through that, heal that stuff, end those cycles, understand myself through journaling, and really just be able to neutralise my negative emotion and really heal my inner child. Because it is possible, and I've done this I've seen it, I've experienced it myself. If any of you have seen my other videos, I don't know how much evolution is super clear over what I've experienced, but I have massively healed myself. I've heard this idea that people are always on a healing journey, but I have massively healed myself through my negative patterns. My mental health is massively improved through healing like my issues and stuff. But it's still a process, and those onions, those layers of the onion, there's still some damaged layers that I need to get rid of, basically. So we're all on our process. A lot of people won't do the work on themselves. They will project for the rest of their life. We all have a healthy level of narcissism, but it really bugs me when I do get triggered like this. It's normal. It's like the universe brings me this experience so I can know what it is that I need to heal from, and I can get further in touch with myself and heal further. But it really just does annoy me when people are abusive to people that have got wounding, just because it's so insensitive of other people's experiences. Like narcissistic people left, right and centre will assume that you are sensitive towards their like basically maladaptive, narcissistic, like dysfunctional, chaotic behaviour, and yet they won't and point blank, that's the end of the road, that's the one way that they go, but they just perpetuate abuse towards you 24/7. It's not okay. If you think it's okay, then you've got a mental issue of narcissism going on, and that will take you wherever you go with that shit. But it's not something that I'm going to deal with. So, yeah, and that's a good boundary to have. That's one of the things I've healed from, like boundaries and that stuff. I'm still coping with really not letting toxic people back into my life and really keeping those boundaries, and I'm on that journey, and I'm hoping that God will just make my path what it is when it comes to toxic people. Because I'm telling you what, after I cut toxic people out of my life and then I let them back in again, and then they were toxic again to a lesser degree just because they wanted stuff from me and I'd set some boundaries, it's just not happening again. Like, just not worth it. So yeah, but I think it's worth having gratitude for people that can stick by you while you're dealing with shit. Because I don't think, and I just said in one of the podcasts that I posted, it's not a crime to be having baggage and to be dealing with something, be that mental health, trauma, toxic people in your life, whatever that is. It's not a crime. But what is a crime is to be narcissistic, actually, and abusive. That is a crime. But regardless of all that, it's important to take accountability for the wounds that people inflict upon you as well, even though it wasn't your fault, and just realise that's a part of life and it's going to happen. And just validate yourself and think, I'm not backsliding, I'm literally just healing from another part of my onion. It's another layer of my onion that's being healed right now. and just not to bleed on people that didn't cut you sometimes, because I think sometimes CCs do. But yeah, thanks for listening.